We're with the third Project Think Tank webinar. We appreciate your patience. We had to scramble as our building had a fire alarm about 30 minutes ago. So we're kindly at the library. So if we have some connectivity issues, it would just bear with us and we'll keep going. So hopefully you've all joined us for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant competitive program. And we just want to share some details with you today. So we can go to the next slide. So just a little quick overview today. The webinar is being recorded because we like to share it on our website, and that'll be up as soon as we're able to. And then we'd like to see who's here. So please use the chat, talk with one another. You know, if you have project ideas or questions. Because we're in the open period, we may not be able to answer all the questions right away, but we will try to get to those before the application period closes. We'll go to the next one. And so today we're going to go through our kind of gone through our welcome. We're going to go over both our application guidance and some of our process. And then we're going to talk about some project ideas. We have a guest presenter with us as well. And then we're going to finish up with some questions from you, the participants, in case we're able to address something that's not clear today. So, all right, we'll go to the next one. All right, Chenille, this is you. Nope, no Slido. Okay, so we were, with our quickness, we'd just like to know, so if you could put in the chat what type of organization. So are you a county that are joining us? Are you a municipality? Maybe you're a school district. We don't need to necessarily know where in South Carolina, but just if you could type that in the chat, we would love to see that today. All right, so we've got some representatives from different cities and the COG. Feel free to keep adding as we go on. We appreciate. All right, so we've got another slide to see who else is here. So the next question, we just wanted to know how familiar, because we had a round one with our South Carolina Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant that closed in January. Have you heard of us before, like during round one, or is this your first time learning about the South Carolina program? Oh, and if I give Chenille just a moment, she's going to load it. So if you want to wait, I can talk. Okay, good. So we've got a first time person. So we really do hope. I'm going to go ahead and plug. I know we're going to talk about it later, and maybe someone will drop into our chat our website. So one of the things is that some of the details we're going to go over today are not as in depth as what we've already gone over. So because round one, much of it's oh, I got to vote. Thank you, Stacy. All right, so I hope you all can see. So it looks like the majority of you, this is your first webinar. So again, if we don't go into all the details, I do plug our other materials. So going forward, let's see what our next slide. Ooh, So on our team from the EECBG program specifically today, I'm Rochelle Tolton, and I'm Energy Program Manager, and you'll meet in just a moment Kayla, our Energy Specialist. And then special with us today who's hosting is Chanel Williams, and so she was the one who had kind of done some of our Slido, and she'll be hosting. So I just wanted to kind of recognize those. Um, Unable to join us today was Sam Christmas, but you might interact with him in the future. So I'd like to share that as well. All right, we'll go on to the next slide. And I think this might be, so round 2 of the EECBG program. We are really trying to fund projects with a variety of energy efficiency, renewable energy, and clean transportation projects in South Carolina for public entities in there. So one of the things I mentioned about round 1, we had a very specific list of entities, they were municipalities or counties that could apply. So this list has been expanded to include other eligible entities, and I'll show you that list in just a moment. Additionally, after doing round 1, we went to, we tried to improve our guidance and some of the materials that, and we're going to walk through some of those in just a moment so you can see it. And we're working to do subgrants. They do not need a match, but we're looking to do them in a range of $50,000 to $75,000 each. And as it says on the slide, we will accept applications anytime now through April 15th, also tax day. And so just get those applications in. And even if you have questions, we say, submit an application because we'd rather see an application with maybe an outstanding question than no application. All right, so let's go to the next slide. All right, so as I mentioned, there are some entities in South Carolina that are not eligible for our program. And so they are eligible for the federal program directly. And so with the U.S. Department of Energy. And those are 10 counties listed on this screen and 14 municipalities as well as a tribal nation. Those with the green check mark have already received their funding from DOE. The others may have already applied and waiting for their funds, or some may be kind of on the fence. I believe I've read, though, that if you are interested at all, I think through April 30th of this year is when you need to apply to the DOE. But if you're in one of those 25, you are not eligible for our program. All right. So now we'll go to the next one. So as we said, we looked at our definition of eligible entities, and we were able to expand it to not only include those counties and municipalities, those 36 additional counties that weren't on the first list, and over 200 municipalities or cities, as well as we were able to expand to things like school districts, council of governments, and other local units of government. All right. Now we're going to jump over to Kayla, and she's going to kind of go over our application guidance with a few pointers. All right, thanks, Kayla.
Hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Kayla Nellums. I'm an energy specialist here with the South Carolina Energy Office. I'm just going to go over a few considerations for applying for the SCEECBG or the South Carolina Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. Call it EECBG because it's a tongue twister. So some considerations, and you guys can get some more information on these inside of our guidance, which is still located on our EECBG webpage at energy.sc.gov. So the first thing you want to consider before applying for SCEECBG is the reimbursement of expenses. So this is a grant program. However, we do not put all the funds out up front. You do have to request for reimbursement. However, you can also not purchase anything towards the project before you apply for the grant or before you even get the notice of award. So all of those things have to be done after you receive your notice of award. Or the award agreement for you to get your reimbursement for EECBG. We also have to worry about project permits. So you are responsible for obtaining any necessary licenses or permits or waivers for your entity inside of your given county or state government. You also have to worry about your procurement process. So you have to procure any goods or services with your EECBG funding through your specific procurement processes, however it is set up within your entity. And then projects also must be completed by May 15th, 2026. So your projects must be complete. And this is important if you are going, if you're looking at your project timeline, when you're looking at your application. Your projects must be complete by May 15th of 2026. That's a little less than 2 years. Also for maintenance of records and audit requirements, we are just asking that you guys are able to make sure you guys are keeping all of your records. So that includes your notice of award, award agreements, applications, any purchases or reimbursement requests regarding your project or any other paper material that you have regarding to your project to be saved for auditing purposes. And then we also have to go by federal requirements as well, as this is a federal grant, and I'll be going over more of that in just a second. And then we do have a few selection criterias for each application. This is what we are looking for in your application to see if you are a good fit for our EECBG award. So the first thing we're going to be looking at are the savings. So those are your expected energy savings and emission reductions. That does include a lot of math. However, we do have a really cool tool that we're going to be introducing to you guys a little bit later on that can help you out with doing those calculations. We also want to have you guys look at the impact of your project, including the simple payback period and expected useful life of the project and the impact. As well as the feasibility of the project. So that's the ability to finish the project within your the budget that you guys have put inside the application, as well as within the specific timeline, which once again, the project must be complete by May 15th of 2026. We will also take into consideration the location of your projects. We do have to look into the Justice 40 initiative, which basically means that 40% of our funds must go towards federally defined disadvantaged communities. And you are able to find out if your community is one of those federally defined communities on our energysc.gov website. And that is a federal website that lists out all of the federally defined disadvantaged communities in South Carolina and throughout the nation. Also for innovation and resilience, we are looking for new ideas, anything regarding energy technology that you think will be beneficial to your county, your city, your school district, wherever your entity is located. You guys can put some more information about the innovation of your project in C1 of the application. And then also in regards to resiliency of the project, you guys can be able to put that into C2 of your application. And with that, we are really working closely with SCORE, South Carolina Office of Resilience, and their definition of resilience in order. Do you have a link to the site that lists Justice 40 communities? Yes, we will be able to drop that inside the chat for you. But in regards to resilience, you'll be able to get some more information on what we're looking for in regards to resiliency on our website as well, under the energy efficiency tab on our website. And on to something new for round 2 of EECBG, we are going to be introducing the supplemental information worksheets. So these worksheets work as a guide to inform all types of supplemental information that we need as the Energy Office to perform technical analysis for your application. So not every worksheet that is on the supplemental information document is required for the project. However, some of the information you can get some of it from your vendors when you're getting quotes, so on and so forth. So each one of them will be different. However, all the projects, this list is not an exhaustive list of all the possible projects you're able to complete under EECBG. However, you're able to get a really good look at the kind of information that we're going to be looking for in regards to technical analysis by taking a peek at that information worksheet. So once again, this worksheet is not required. However, it does help us as the Energy Office to expedite the review process, and it kind of helps us be able to make decisions quicker and be able to get these award agreements out faster. And you're able to take a peek, you can scan the QR code, and then once this PowerPoint is on the website, you can click this link here and it'll take you to the information worksheet as well. So some other federal funding requirements, like I talked about earlier, this is a federal grant, so we do have to abide by federal funding requirements. There is a good bit of, there is a quite a hefty lift of them. However, depending on your project, these are very project specific requirements, as some of them can be waived. So the first one is the BABA, so Buy America, Build American, which means that if you are receiving federal funding, that most of your products must be manufactured by an American-made vendor or American US type of vendor. For Davis Bacon, DBA, all contractors are paid prevailing wage for a geographic location. So basically, that means that you have to provide us with weekly summaries of how your contractors or your employees are being paid in regards to the project. For historic preservation, this goes towards any building over 50 years old. And those also have waivers as well as for BABA. BABA also has a waiver too. But this is basically saying you're going to try to preserve as much as the historical value of the building as possible, unless your project is waived through the Historical Preservation Act. But that is something that we can go over after you put your application in. This is not nothing you need to worry about before you put your application in. It's just something that you have to be aware of. And then also for NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, these are considerations for environmental impacts. We really look into this if it is a groundbreaking activity. So for example, if you are installing solar panels and you are ground mounting them, that is a groundbreaking activity. So that may or may not require a NEPA review. However, it is very project specific, so it may fall within a waiver as well. And then, of course, for Justice 40, 40% of all overall benefits must flow into disadvantaged or federally defined disadvantaged communities. And we talked a little bit about that beforehand. And it looks like Stacy did drop that screening tool into the chat. So you guys can go ahead and take a peek to see if your county or city falls or the location of your project falls within a disadvantaged community and can kind of help us abide by that Justice 40 initiative. And I'm going to switch you back over to Rochelle.
Thank you, Kayla, for giving us that overview. And all of these details that Kayla went into, you can find them in our guidance and application. So, and the supplemental worksheets, all three of those documents are on our webpage. So we're going to go over a few items in the application form. We can go to the next slide. All right, so if you are familiar with the federal program, they have 14 project categories or activity categories. And so for the state of South Carolina, we decided and picked 8 of them that we felt fit the needs of South Carolina. And so those are listed on the side here, all 8 of those. And so, but you can go and see exactly how they're defined by the US DOE by following the link that QR code. We also have links on the right-hand side of our webpage. And so any project idea that you're thinking of, you want to see if it fits into one of these 8 areas. And so we walked through some of those project ideas back in October, and then and now we're going to go over one more in just a little bit. But there is quite a wide variety. So we have some energy efficiency retrofits, conservation of transportation energy, so some building codes. You could even look at doing replacement of traffic signals and street lighting, even on-site renewable energy related to a government building. And then the last one, which is considered number 14 for DOE, is sort of a catch-all. So if none of the rest meet what you're trying to do, I'd check that one out for those details. All right, we'll go to the next slide, please. So in our application, to help us determine some of the things that we have to provide to DOE, we have a project metrics summary. And so, and this is where we asked for this type of information before, because we need to be able to see if we're reducing some of our energy usage across the state by doing these measures that are put into place. And so to try and help, as Kayla talked about, the supplemental information worksheets, we wanted to be able to provide you with the tools so that you would know the questions to ask as you're gathering the data to be able to put together the application. So there's a worksheet, for example, for if you wanted to look at purchasing an EV for part of your project, or maybe you wanted to put in electric vehicle charging equipment. And so we're guiding. Now, we did not have time to make worksheets for every conceivable project. So these are just the sorts of things that we need that type of information. So if you have a different project idea in mind and you don't see it on the worksheet, it still may be feasible as long as it fits in those 8 categories. We just wanted to show you the type of information that we really work with. And in our last webinar, we kind of went through the greenhouse gas equivalency calculator. So if you want to learn more about that, I recommend you looking there. All right, we'll see what's at the next slide. So we're going to move into those project ideas. And we're just about to get to our guest speaker. So let's see what the next slide, please. And so what I wanted to point out was that the US DOE did spend time creating blueprints. And these are guides to projects that are out there. And so they're broken into like they might have one blueprint, or there might be 3 blueprints under a similar idea. And again, we went over in more detail in our part 2 webinar about each one of these. But if you haven't been to that webinar, you could also just look at these blueprints, and they help you know what kind of tools might be helpful in putting together a project if you're not quite sure what type of project you'd like to submit. So just wanted to plug those before we go to our speaker. All right, I think our next slide. And then also some of our other resources, again, on our webpage are those the links to the eligible categories, which sometimes we refer to as the project categories, those blueprints, and something new that we were able to link to. For some of you, you may be aware that we had a webpage that was called Electric Vehicles for State Agencies. And so we've updated it and broadened it. So it's electric vehicles for public entities. So it has not only information about electric vehicles, but also some resources to learn how to install, what sort of things you need to think about if you are going to do charging. So those are several links on there. And then of course, like I've already said, there's 2 recordings, and we'll add the 3rd one for any of your colleagues. They'll be able to look at this as well. All right, so our next one I think is going to be Eric, and we'll do a little quick intro before he speaks. All right, so Kayla, we'll go to the next slide. So Eric has been kind enough. He's one of those 24 entities that is eligible for direct funds from DOE. So he's not eligible for, or their county is not eligible for our program. So thought he could share something that they're planning on doing. And the allocation for the Beaufort County was $80,150. So I'll give it back to you, Eric, and let you kind of guide us through the rest of it.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you.
I'm Eric Larson. I'm the Capital Projects Director and Interim Facility Management Director for Beaufort County. Our project, as you see, is EV chargers. We went to simple project. We're using the voucher program that was allowed in that round with the federal funding of just getting vouchers for equipment. And so we're focusing on chargers. We've got 2 or 3 different types of chargers we are doing. If you move on to the next slide, just a little bit about us. We currently have 13 electric vehicles, but we've made a commitment to increase our fleet by 80% by 2050, and that's a long way off. But with over 600 or 700 vehicles in our fleet, we've got a long way to go from the 13 that we have now. Most of them are passenger vans, pool vehicles that we use for different departments, but we have started implementing cargo vans for the infotech department, records management, and public works. They're using electric vehicles, cargo vans now. As I said, we're doing this for not only our fleet, but we're trying to increase the use for the public. This is part of the grant requirement, was to have those public-facing units. And so we're going to include, starting this year, units that you can actually pay to charge, similar to a parking meter, at some of our public-facing service centers like libraries, administration building, the courthouse, parks and rec departments, etc. Our whole program is over 400,000, and we spent about 104 last year. So we're at 300,000 for FY25 going forward. This grant being 80 will probably, as you can see, be a third of that. And with that money this year, we're intending to do one of the solar units, which I'll describe in a second. And then with the remaining funds will either go towards the second solar unit, or it will go towards some of these wired in charging stations that we have. The total cost of one of these typical charging stations that's hardwired in, to the electric grid, it's not solar powered, is only about 7,000. So we're able to get several of those done. But these solar powered units that we're going to have on the next slide are approaching $70,000 a piece. So if you'll move on to the next slide, our current plan is to deploy 24 sites. 4 of those are going to be the solar powered units, and then the remainders are going to be powered sites. We have 2 different brands that we're using. Wallbox is a brand, and Electron is a brand. We've got 6 sites in place. 5 of those are the Wallbox, and then the 1 solar. The Wallbox is at the disadvantage that it can't be used for public facing pay to park, pay to charge type of system. So those are only for our county vehicles, and they're at our different secured facilities so that we don't have general public just pulling up and plugging in. But as we go forward, this Electron unit is the one that has the pay to park ability to it. On the next slide, we get into our operations and maintenance plan, which was part of the grant application questionnaire. We do have in-house electricians to take care of their maintenance when they need it. We also have a preventative maintenance schedule for operations and maintenance of these. But in addition to that, these units come with service agreements. And so we have the manufacturer, and through a service contract, the manufacturer can troubleshoot these units, keep their hardware and firmware updates by remote connection. And then when we get into the pay system operations, this is also going to be the methodology in which we collect the money for the payment to charge. To this point, we've only been focused on deployment. What we have yet to do is come up with a replacement schedule. We're still in that initial implementation. So we move on to my last slide, and you see a picture of this EV charging station. This is the Beam EV ARC portable charging system. It's quite large, as you can tell. It does fold up and is portable, so it can be deployed as needed. This is a brochure image of the one that we do have, and similar to the ones we're going to get for the other sites. Getting to that disadvantaged community and that underserved area, there are areas of our counties, including a library branch and some parks and rec facilities, that do not have the power needed to do a wired in charging station. And so to provide charging at these remote locations, we're needing to use the Beam unit. These things can be repurposed during emergency, and they can also be deployed for demand. If we are having a high demand, maybe we're having an event at one of these remote centers and we need extra charging facilities, these things can be picked up and moved and reset back up at these more remote centers. Before I leave the Beam, it is also good to know that this is not just a car charging station. As part of our resilience plan, these things also provide power for first responders and emergency services. So in the event of a power loss due to a storm, we need to set these up at a service center or something in response to an event or a power outage, prolonged power outage, I should say. These things can be used to power equipment, and they also include 120 volt, your typical residential plug-in, so that you can plug in small appliances, if you needed to, charge cell phones, anything that you would typically plug into the wall. This thing has the capability of doing that in addition to charging a vehicle. And then further on our resilience, we do have 6 sites that have generator backups. So in the event of a power loss, we have the ability to charge vehicles through the use of the generator, even if there's a power outage. And one of our facilities here in the county has a solar array that was installed on a roof, and that facility actually sells power to Dominion because it produces more than it actually uses. And so when we install the EV chargers there, we'll be able to basically charge those vehicles at no cost to us because we're getting that solar power from that array. That's really all I have. I'm glad I was able to share our small little simple program, and I'll stick around in case there's any questions for me later. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Eric. This was really helpful, and I feel like you hit a lot of the points that I was really hoping you'd talk about. So I do appreciate it. And we are getting ready to ask some questions, so there may be some opportunity for you to elaborate. All right, so we can go to the next slide. All right, so as we said, we'd like to get your feedback a little bit. So what kind of projects do you have in mind? We're popping up a Slido, so if you can just, if you have some ideas that you're already thinking about. This will probably take a moment. And if you're brand new to this, again, I recommend looking at our 2 PowerPoints and looking at those blueprint ideas that DOE has created, so that hopefully that can take you a little bit closer to the type of information that you would need, so that it's not just starting from scratch. One thing that I didn't mention while you're thinking about this is that we will be adding to our website in the near future. If we receive any questions that you weren't able to ask to get an answer to today, we're going to try and we call it a frequently asked questions document. And so where if you've seen our application and our guidance on the website, that's where that document will be. And we'll update it periodically and through April 15th. So if you have a question that you just feel like you really need answered, please submit questions there, and we'll go into that in a moment. All right, so we've got a few. All right, so if you want to go ahead and share. Yes, school districts are eligible, so I see that. And yes, it is a little bit confusing. So we're using the idea that municipalities that are within counties are eligible for our program. So school districts that are within counties that were so the county might be eligible for the federal program, but other smaller entities are still eligible for our program. And could you show that poll again? Because it's hard for me to read all the. So energy updates in some of our schools that are in eligible neighborhoods. That sounds really good. Community Resiliency Center. All right, clean transportation. What else do we have? Maybe I need to scroll to be able to see. Some more retrofitting city lights, adding public EV infrastructure, and EV chargers for public use, building retrofits and upgrades. And so all good projects, all things that were in the window, and several of them are similar to some of the ones that we saw in round 1, but some are brand new, I think. Okay, now we can go to the next one. Thanks. All right. So if you like, you can put into the Slido if you want to share it now, or you can share it separately. But do you have some questions that we might be able to answer right now about the program? And if we're not, we'll be happy to look into getting those answers to you. So we'll give it a few minutes for that. Okay. So. Yes. Okay. Looks like we've got about 6 or so typing in questions. So we'll wait a moment for you guys to be able to give us those questions. Got one more. Okay, it looks like we've got some responses, so let's take a look. All right, we'll probably have to get back to you on the environmental benefits, how to calculate that. But I would, Stacy, did you? That's more for us to actually calculate is what, sorry, Stacy's in the room, so she's giving me some feedback as we're doing that. So that would be something that we're actually going to calculate. So just fill in as much as you can. If there's something that you're not able to calculate, we'll work with you on that. So on the section 4 where the budget is, yes, we'd like to see if you're using EECBG funds, but just like how Beaufort County is doing a larger program, so they're using some of the EECBG funds, but then they're putting it towards a larger project. We would like to see that. Now, some people may just do the project solely with EECBG funds, so there might not be anything else for that middle column. But together, then that's how you would get your total budget. So that it's just to help see, because again, we're trying to make sure these projects can be completed, viable projects by May 15th of 2026. So, and the next question asks, is there a minimum of 50,000 for small towns? So it's the project, you can propose anything. We're just asking that you propose a project between 50 and 75,000. For EECBG funds particularly. So if the project was going to take 80,000, then you could request 75,000 from the EECBG funds and find the other 5,000 to complete the project. But yes, we're asking that you find something that's going to cost at least 50,000 for the EECBG funds. So the next question is about training for use of the solar array. I'm not sure that's in our current category, but feel free to put something together and we can see. But I think more of the projects were for this particular grant funding was for implementation. So we were trying to have physical projects, just like there are some categories that are for audits only. And so we had selected those that would have an implementation. There are some other training opportunities coming up in the near future through workforce development. And so that might be something that's a better fit. But feel free to put in an application and we can always see what opportunities. Okay, let me see what. So the next question is, are there any restrictions on the non-EECBG funds for projects? Can they be other federal funds? We're going to have to get back to you because I know sometimes there can be a lot of stacking and braiding and things like that. So I would suggest that you, if we still haven't satisfied your question, I would still suggest putting the proposal together and being clear what those other federal funds are, because there are some that probably would be problematic, but there might be others that it would be okay and they would work together. So. And so all entities that are eligible to apply for round 2. So it's a competitive program. So we'll be looking at those different criteria for this round 2. We listed that Kayla went over and are in the guidance and also in the application. So just you want to make sure you hit those. I think there were 6 criteria. And really showing how your project hits those. Does this include public housing? If it's a unit of, so if it's considered like a local public authority, or if it's a special district, then it would be included. So, and then, so it just depends on the form of your public housing. And then, and again, I recommend applying, and we can navigate that water once we've done our selections. And then would HVAC upgrades for government buildings be an eligible use of this funds? And yes, that is definitely one. And if you look at our supplemental information worksheets, there's some information there about if you're replacing. So what we would like to see from your current, what kind of information we'd need from your current HVAC, and then what you would be intending to replace with. So hopefully those are a lot of, I think we've got a couple of these that we'll probably be sharing in our frequently asked questions document going forward. So just keep an eye out. And we'll add everyone from today's webinar to our email list. And so when we update things on our website around EECBG, or if there's any other notifications, we'll include you on that to try and keep it time sensitive. All right, so Kayla, if you don't mind, we'll go to the next slide. Thank you, that was great feedback. So I feel like I'm a little bit of a broken record, but I really hope that this information on our website helps guide you. And then, as I mentioned, our main email address is energycs@ors.sc.gov. So any questions that you didn't get addressed today, or something pops up, send it to this email and we'll work through getting answers. And then, like I said, periodically we'll be adding it to our funding page under the SC EECBG page. So, all right, let's see what that next. And that's also where we house our recordings. So part 1 and part 2 from October and December will be on that webpage already. And then we'll be adding the recording from today. And Stacy, if you wouldn't mind dropping that link one more time in the chat, just in case, to that webpage. And then we'll go to, I think we've got a couple more slides. So if you've already got your project idea fully fleshed out, please go ahead and submit that to energycs@ors.sc.gov. Otherwise, you have from now until 11:59 on April 15th, 2024 to submit your application. And it's that application form. If either the project overview or those supplemental worksheets, if you need more space than we allocated, please attach additional information. We just kind of gave starting points, so just add that if you, it's not to be an end all, you can only put in 3 things or something like that. So, so the maximum amount from our federal funding that we'll be allocating would be $75,000 per project application. So, so in one application for the EECBG funds, you're welcome to find funds through your program to do more than that. But what we would, from the competitive piece, would be 75,000. So 50 to 75,000 is the range. And we kind of came up with that because a lot of this was based on population size for those that receive the direct federal funding, and the smallest allocation was about 76,000 across there. So, but you can, we did receive more than one application from some entities. So if you have more than one project idea, you're welcome to submit that, but just, again, one application, no more than 75,000 on that. Were there any other questions in the chat that I have not addressed? Okay. And then, and we're gonna wrap up soon. We're gonna try something new. We've got a survey that you should see. We'd just love to get a little bit of feedback. And when we end for today, and we really appreciate your flexibility for a little bit of our craziness getting started. So, and again, please, even if you have a question and it's April 15th at 5 o'clock, just get that application in, and we can work around questions potentially. So we really do appreciate it. And again, any other questions you have between now and then, energycs.se. Oh, I do have one last thing I wanted to share with you. So we're under a DOE timeline. So all of the applications from round 2 will be reviewed, and we'll go through the selection criteria. And so they will likely be, we'll probably notify people in late May, early June, and then we will be under kind of a very strict getting the award agreement in place for those selected by the beginning of July. So we were under originally 180-day time window. We extended by 60 days. So we just need to, so just to kind of give you all a heads up of about when projects would be able to be underway if you were selected. So July would be a time frame I would keep in mind. So, all right. So I'm looking to the 2 in the room with me, and I think we're good to go. All right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll talk with you soon. Thanks.